Somebody came in here tonight asking God to change something around them. Change my situation. Change my money. Change my marriage. Change my boss. Change my season. But I came to tell you there is a greater work happening than the one you're praying for on the outside. Because while you're asking God to rearrange the furniture of your life, God is saying, I'm rebuilding the foundation. You see, we shout when God moves things for us, but we grow when God works things in us. The truth is, if God gave you everything you wanted right now, with the version of you that exists right now, it would break you instead of bless you. So God delays the miracle to develop the man. He postpones the breakthrough to mature the woman. Because the change God is making in you will determine whether you can sustain the change you want around you. Touch your neighbor and tell them this process matters. And today we're not just talking about what God is changing, we're talking about who God is changing. Many times in life, we find ourselves crying out to God for change around us. We pray for circumstances to shift, for relationships to improve, for doors to open, for blessings to come, for challenges to disappear. We want the world around us to adjust to our vision, to our timing, to our desire. And there's nothing wrong with asking God to intervene in our lives. After all, He is Jehovah Jireh, our provider. And there is nothing too difficult for Him. Yet, what we often fail to realize is that God is far more concerned with what He is doing inside of us than what He is doing outside of us. He is more invested in our hearts than our houses, in our minds than our money, in our character than our circumstances. God's ultimate aim is not to make our lives look better from the outside if the inside is still broken, empty, or unprepared. The change He is making in us matters more than the change we desperately want around us. The human tendency is always to want immediate results. We are impatient. We want things to happen now. We measure success by what we can see, by the tangible outcomes, by the external manifestations. When a promotion doesn't come, we grumble. When a relationship struggles, we complain. When finances are tight, we panic. We ask God to shift situations, not realizing that the reason He hasn't moved things yet is because He is already at work shaping something greater within us. The unseen, internal transformation is far more powerful than the visible, external transformation. While we chase after what can be seen, God is busy perfecting what cannot be seen, and that is where true power, purpose, and destiny are formed. Think about it this way. God wants to equip us with the strength, the wisdom, the patience, the endurance, and the perspective to handle the change we're asking for. If He were to simply change everything around us without changing anything inside of us, we might be completely unprepared for the very blessings we're longing for. He could give us wealth, but if we are still greedy or careless, it could destroy us. He could give us influence, but if we are still prideful or self-centered, it could lead us into ruin. He could bring healing to a relationship, but if we are still bitter or unforgiving, the same issues will resurface, and the cycle will continue. God is not in a hurry to give us everything we want, because He knows that what He is doing in us, the internal transformation, is what makes the external change sustainable. The Bible is filled with examples of this principle. Joseph was given visions and dreams of greatness, but before he could step into his purpose, he had to endure betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment. Those external circumstances were harsh, painful, and humiliating, but they were the very tools God used to shape his character, to build resilience, patience, faith, and wisdom. Had Joseph been elevated to a position of power too soon, without going through the refining process, he might have failed under the weight of his own gift. God knew that what He was doing in Joseph, what He was teaching him internally, was far more important than the change Joseph wanted to see in the world around him. Likewise, Consider Moses. God called him to deliver the Israelites from Egypt, to lead a nation, to confront kings, and to perform miracles. Yet, before he could step into that destiny, he spent 40 years in the wilderness. He was shepherding sheep, learning humility, patience, and dependence on God. On the outside, it may have seemed like a delay, like wasted time, but God was shaping Moses internally. The change God was making in Moses, his heart, his faith, his courage, was far more important than the external circumstances Moses longed to change. And when the time came, Moses was not only ready to lead, he was transformed into the kind of man who could carry God as presence and execute God as plan with wisdom and authority. This is exactly what God is doing in each of us today. We may cry out for change. God, fix my job, heal my marriage, open the doors I've been praying for, change my circumstances. But God is saying, I am changing you first. He is rearranging our thoughts, refining our emotions, purifying our motives, shaping our character, and strengthening our faith. He is teaching us patience in a world that demands instant gratification. He is teaching us trust when every fiber of our being wants to take control. He is teaching us humility when pride screams to take the spotlight. The internal transformation is preparation, and preparation precedes promotion. The change God is making into us ensures that when the external change finally comes, we are ready, able, and equipped to steward it well. This principle also reminds us that what we see around us is not always the ultimate measure of God. It's work. Someone might look at our lives and say, nothing is happening. Your situation is still the same. But God sees the invisible work. He sees the prayer life that has grown stronger. He sees the character that is being refined. He sees the humility, the patience, the endurance, the faith, and the wisdom that are developing. And that is what truly matters. External change without internal growth is fleeting. It may provide temporary comfort or satisfaction, but it will not lead to lasting impact, purpose, or destiny. God is not interested in giving us temporary solutions. He is interested in creating permanent transformation. We also need to understand that internal change is often more difficult than external change. It is easier to ask God to change our circumstances than to allow Him to change our hearts. It is easier to hope for someone else to change than to surrender our own pride, anger, or bitterness. It is easier to desire success than to embrace the discipline, sacrifice, and patience required to truly become the person who can handle success. Internal transformation requires humility, surrender, and trust. It requires a willingness to let God work in ways we may not understand. And it requires faith to believe that what He is doing inside of us matters more than what we see around us. When we embrace this truth, it changes the way we pray, the way we wait, the way we respond to challenges. Instead of simply asking for God to fix what is outside, we begin to invite Him to work within us. Instead of crying, God, change my situation, we begin to say, God, change me, shape me, make me ready. And when that happens, we begin to see life from a higher perspective. We realize that delays are not denials, trials are not punishments, and struggles are not signs of failure. They are opportunities for growth, moments of preparation, and spaces for God to work within us. The ultimate message is this: God's priority is the transformation of our hearts, minds, and spirits, because that is what has eternal value. Circumstances will change, opportunities will come, blessings will manifest, but without internal growth, we cannot fully receive, appreciate, or sustain them. God is more concerned about who we are becoming than what we are experiencing. And when we align ourselves with that process, when we surrender to His refining work, we find a deeper peace, a stronger faith, and a greater capacity to handle life's victories and challenges alike. So, the next time you are desperate for change around you, pause and ask, God, what are you changing in me? Because the work He is doing inside of you matters far more than anything happening outside of you. It is this inner transformation that equips you to endure, to prosper, to bless, and to walk in the destiny He has prepared. What God is building in you today will sustain the change you want tomorrow, and that is why the change He is making in you matters more than the change you want around you. Trust Him. Wait on Him. Let Him do His work inside of you. For when He is finished, you will not only see change around you, but you will have been transformed into the person who can handle it. Many times we look at our lives and see delays, and we immediately assume that God has forgotten us, that He is distant, that He does not care. We look at our prayers, our efforts, our fasting, our tears, and we wonder why things are not moving as quickly as we think they should. We see the doors closed, the opportunities postponed, the relationships still broken, the finances still tight, and we declare, God, why haven't you answered me yet? I've been waiting too long. I've been faithful. I've been patient. I've been doing all the right things. Why is it taking so long? But what we often fail to recognize is that delay does not mean denial. Delay is not rejection. Delay is not punishment. Delay is development. What looks like a pause on the outside is a process on the inside. God is not absent. He is actively at work, shaping, refining, and developing you so that when the time comes, you are fully prepared for the blessing, the breakthrough, the destiny He has promised. The problem is that we live in a world that values instant gratification. We are accustomed to getting what we want quickly. We push a button and the answer arrives. We swipe a screen and opportunity appears. We download information in seconds. We text a message and expect an immediate reply. This culture of speed has shaped our expectations. And when God's timing does not match our own, we become frustrated, anxious, and even angry. But God is not in a hurry because He is not just interested in giving you something. He is interested in giving you something you can handle. He is more concerned about the long term than the immediate. He is more concerned about your readiness than your relief. He is more concerned about your maturity than your momentary satisfaction. Delay is the classroom where God teaches, the training ground where He equips, and the workshop where He refines the raw materials of your life into something durable, useful, and powerful. Think about it. How many times have you wanted a promotion, a position, or a responsibility before you were ready for it? If God had given it to you too early, would you have been able to manage it? Would you have been wise enough, patient enough, disciplined enough, or humble enough to steward it well? Probably not. Delay is God's way of building the capacity inside you. While you wait, He is developing your character, strengthening your faith, sharpening your skills, and teaching you lessons that you cannot learn any other way. Every day that you feel like nothing is happening is actually a day that God is working invisibly in your life. Every setback, every no, every closed door is a divine opportunity for development. A chance to grow spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and even physically, so that when the timing is right, you are fully prepared to receive and sustain the blessing. The scriptures are filled with examples of delay being a period of preparation and development. Abraham and Sarah waited decades for the promise of a child. And during that waiting period, their faith was tested, their patience was stretched, and their trust in God was deepened. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness as a shepherd before leading a nation. Joseph endured betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment before he could step into his God-given position of authority. David was anointed as king as a young shepherd, but he spent years hiding, running, and learning to trust God before he could sit on the throne. In each of these cases, the delay was not a denial, it was a divine development. The waiting period was not wasted time, it was transformative time. God was molding them, equipping them, and preparing them for the next level of their destiny. One of the most important truths to understand about delay is that it builds endurance. Endurance is one of the most valuable qualities a person can possess. It is easy to celebrate when everything goes smoothly, when doors open, and when life flows without interruption. But real strength, real faith, real resilience is forged in the fire of delay, in the tension of waiting, in the moments when you feel like giving up but refuse to quit. Delay forces you to develop patience. And patience teaches you reliance on God rather than reliance on your own understanding. Delay teaches you to pray deeper, to trust harder, to hope longer, and to walk with God with greater intimacy, because you have no other option but to cling to Him. When the blessing finally comes, it comes to someone who is spiritually, emotionally, and mentally prepared to handle it, to steward it, and to maximize it. Delay also reveals your heart. It exposes your true motives, your faith level, your persistence, and your priorities. When things don't happen immediately, how do you respond? Do you complain, grumble, or doubt? Do you turn to shortcuts, compromise, or resentment, or do you wait with hope, trust, and perseverance, confident that God is working all things together for your good? Delay allows God to see your faith in action and to reveal to you the areas that need refinement. It is easy to be faithful when everything goes according to plan. It is far more revealing to be faithful when circumstances seem contrary. Delay tests the quality of your heart and prepares you for the responsibility of what is coming. Another reason God uses delay as development is to protect you. Sometimes, if the blessing or the breakthrough came too soon, it could bring harm instead of help. It could destroy your integrity, weaken your faith, or overwhelm your capacity. God's timing is perfect because He knows what you can handle. What looks like a setback, a closed door, or a postponed opportunity is often God's way of saying, "Not yet, my child. I'm protecting you. I'm preparing you. I'm developing you." When you understand that delay is development, you begin to see every pause, every wait, every obstacle, not as a punishment, but as a divine protection, a divine teaching, and a divine refining. Delay also gives you time to grow spiritually during periods of waiting. You are forced to rely on God more than you ever have before. You spend more time in prayer, more time in meditation, more time in study, more time in reflection. You develop a deeper intimacy with God, a more profound dependence on His wisdom, and a stronger sense of His presence. What you learn during the waiting period equips you not only for the blessing, but for the purpose the blessing is intended to serve. Delay develops the person who will carry the destiny, not just the person who wants the reward. So when you are frustrated with delay, when you are anxious because things are not happening according to your schedule, remind yourself that God's clock is perfect. Delay is not denial, it is preparation. It is the secret training ground where God develops the strength, the wisdom, the patience, the faith, and the character that you will need to handle your breakthrough with integrity and excellence. Every day that you wait is a day of growth. Every challenge you face is a lesson. Every obstacle you encounter is an opportunity to become more like the person God intends for you to be. The key is to remain faithful during the delay. Keep praying, keep trusting, keep moving in obedience. Keep cultivating the skills, the habits, and the mindset that will sustain you when the timing is right. Do not despise the waiting period. Do not grow weary, and do not give up. Embrace the development, embrace the growth, and embrace the refinement. Understand that the work God is doing inside of you matters far more than the timing of your circumstances. When the delay ends, when the breakthrough arrives, when the blessing is released, you will not only receive what you were waiting for, but you will also have become the person capable of handling it, stewarding it, and maximizing it for God's glory. Remember, the greatest truths of life are often revealed in the waiting. The strongest leaders are developed in the delays. The most enduring faith is forged in the pauses. The deepest intimacy with God is cultivated in the silence. Delay is not denial, delay is development. And when you embrace it, trust it, and walk through it with faith, you will come out on the other side stronger, wiser, and fully prepared for the destiny God has in store for you. So the next time you feel like God is taking too long, the next time your prayers seem unanswered, the next time your doors appear closed, do not despair. Do not doubt. Do not give up. Remember that delay is not denial. Delay is development. God is not absent. He is at work. He is shaping, refining, and preparing you for the next level of your life. Trust the process. Embrace the development. Wait with faith, and know that when God finally moves, the change will not just be around you, it will be in you, and it will be unstoppable. Many people want the blessing, but they are not willing to grow into the person God intends them to be to carry that blessing. They want the promotion, but they are not willing to develop the patience, humility, and wisdom needed to handle leadership. They want the relationship, but they are not willing to deal with their own insecurities, pride, or past wounds. They want influence, but they are not willing to be refined, disciplined, and tested by God. The truth is this: God does not just give out calls and gifts to anyone who asks. God gives the call to those whose character has been molded, shaped, and strengthened to carry it. You see, your calling is only as strong as your character. The greater the purpose, the greater the person God must develop to carry it. Without internal growth, without the refining of your character, the calling you desire could become a weight, a burden, or even a trap. God is not in a hurry to place a crown on your head if the heart beneath it is not ready to bear it. Think about Joseph. Joseph had dreams of greatness. He saw himself ruling over nations and blessing the world. He could have walked into his destiny prematurely, full of pride and arrogance, demanding his dreams without waiting on God's timing. But God did not give him the throne immediately. Joseph was sold into slavery by his own brothers, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. He endured betrayal, humiliation, and years of waiting. And in that process, God was shaping his character. He was teaching him patience, humility, faithfulness, and integrity. He was showing Joseph how to respond when others were unjust, how to manage responsibility under pressure, how to trust God even when circumstances seemed unfair. By the time Joseph finally became the ruler of Egypt, he was not only gifted with wisdom and skill, but his character had been refined so that he could handle the authority, the responsibility, and the influence God had given him. If Joseph had skipped the process, the very thing he dreamed of could have destroyed him. Character must grow to carry the calling. Moses is another example. Moses was called to lead a nation out of bondage. He had the vision, the purpose, and the destiny. Yet God did not place him immediately before Pharaoh. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness, tending sheep, learning humility, patience, and dependence on God. In the solitude of the desert, Moses' character was being formed. His faith was being strengthened. His heart was being prepared to lead millions of people with courage and wisdom. God knew that the calling Moses desired required a level of character that can only be developed over time, through trials, testing, and refining. The calling was important, but the character to carry it was indispensable. Without that internal growth, Moses' destiny could have been derailed. Many people fail to understand this principle. They see others walking into positions, opportunities, and blessings, and they wonder why it has not happened for them. They look at the gap between their desire and their current situation and grow frustrated, thinking that something is wrong. But the reality is that God is not just moving things around for you, He is moving in you. He is developing your character, teaching you lessons, building your integrity, refining your heart, and strengthening your spirit. The delay, the challenge, the trial, and the testing are all part of a process designed to prepare you for what is coming. The calling without the character is dangerous. The promotion without the preparation is precarious. The blessing without the breakthrough in character is unsustainable. Character is what sustains you when no one else applauds, when the crowd has left, and when the lights are dim. Character is what guides you when temptation is strong, when pride is seductive, and when shortcuts are tempting. Character is what keeps you grounded when success arrives, when fame calls, and when opportunity knocks. God prioritizes building character because He knows that the person who is equipped internally can handle the external assignment with wisdom, integrity, and grace. If he bypassed the development of character, the calling could destroy rather than deliver. We also have to understand that character growth is often painful. God does not grow character in comfort zones. Character is formed in the furnace of trials, in the pressure of opposition, in the discipline of waiting, and in the humility of dependence on Him. It is tested through adversity, strengthened through resistance, and revealed through challenges. Many of the lessons we resist, the hardships we complain about, and the obstacles we dread are actually the very instruments God is using to mold our character. Every setback, every delay, every disappointment is an opportunity for God to develop endurance, patience, humility, and faithfulness. Every experience is a divine lesson in who we must become to carry the calling. Character is also revealed in how we treat others. It is easy to act faithfully when no one is watching, when we are comfortable, and when life is smooth. But character is exposed in the moments of pressure, in how we respond to criticism, how we treat those who cannot benefit us, and how we navigate conflict. God watches the way you treat people when it is inconvenient, when it costs you, when no one else is looking. Your calling requires a character that reflects His heart, His love, His patience, and His integrity. Without that, the calling may be impressive on the outside, but empty on the inside. God's work in your character ensures that the impact of your calling will be lasting, meaningful, and redemptive. Think about Esther. She was chosen to be queen at a critical time in history. But before she could step into her destiny, she spent time in preparation, learning, growing, and developing wisdom in the palace. She could have acted prematurely, but God's timing and her internal growth prepared her to make decisions that would save her people. Her character was tested and refined so that she could carry the calling with courage, humility, and faith. Esther's story reminds us that God does not just give assignments, He prepares hearts to execute them with excellence. Character must grow to carry the calling. Even in our modern lives, this principle applies. We may want recognition, influence, wealth, or leadership, but God is concerned about whether we can handle it. He wants to see faithfulness when no one is applauding, integrity when it is inconvenient, patience when things are delayed, humility when we are tempted to boast, and wisdom when challenges come. God's call is not just about opportunity, it is about transformation. He is shaping us so that the blessing, the breakthrough, and the responsibility we desire will not destroy us, but will elevate us to our full potential. This principle also teaches us to be patient with ourselves. Character growth is a process. It cannot be rushed. You cannot skip the lessons, bypass the discipline, or avoid the trials. Each experience, each hardship, each delay is part of God's curriculum designed to strengthen you for your calling. It may feel uncomfortable, frustrating, or even unfair at times, but it is essential for your growth. Just as metal must go through fire to become strong, and gold must be refined to remove impurities, your character must be developed so that you can carry the calling God has placed on your life. In conclusion, your calling is important, but your character is crucial. Without character, the calling can overwhelm, mislead, or corrupt. With character, the calling becomes a vehicle for impact, blessing, and fulfillment. God is more interested in who you are becoming than what you are doing. He is more concerned about the internal work than the external results. He is shaping your heart, mind, and spirit so that you can carry your destiny with excellence, wisdom, and integrity. Character must grow to carry the calling, embrace the lessons, the trials, the delays, and the development. Because God is working in you to prepare you for the assignment He has already designed for your life. Trust the process. Remain faithful. And know that when the time comes, your character will support your calling. And you will step into your destiny fully equipped to walk in purpose, power, and victory. Resistance to change is one of the most common struggles we face in life. And yet, it is one of the most revealing spiritual tools God uses to shape us. When God begins to work in our lives, when He begins to prune, refine, and redirect, there is often a natural reaction of resistance. It is human nature to cling to what is familiar, comfortable, and predictable, even if it is holding us back. Change is uncomfortable. Growth requires leaving behind old patterns, habits, and mindsets that have become part of our identity. And when we resist, it is not merely a rebellion, it is a window into the very areas God is refining. The discomfort, the tension, and the pushback we feel are not signs that God has abandoned us. They are signals that He is working beneath the surface, shaping us for greater purpose. Many people misunderstand resistance. They think that if they struggle with the change God is orchestrating, they are failing, or worse, that God has rejected them. But resistance is actually evidence that the work of transformation is underway. It reveals the areas of our life that are not fully aligned with God's will, the corners of our heart that are still hardened, the habits that are still controlling us, and the mindsets that need recalibration. Resistance exposes our attachment to comfort over purpose, familiarity over destiny, and fear over faith. It is in this resistance that God finds the opportunity to refine, to redirect, and to strengthen. He allows us to see what is not yet ready for His blessing so that He can work to make it ready. Think about it. When God calls us to a higher level, resistance always shows up. Maybe He is calling you to forgive someone who has hurt you deeply and your heart resists. Maybe He is asking you to step into leadership and fear or self-doubt resists. Maybe He is asking you to release a habit, a relationship, or a mindset that is holding you back, and your flesh resists. This resistance is not accidental, it is deliberate. It shines a light on the areas that require attention, prayer, humility, and surrender. Resistance is God's diagnostic tool. It identifies the spots in our hearts where refinement is needed. The Bible gives us multiple examples of resistance revealing areas of refinement. Consider Jonah. God called Jonah to go to Nineveh and deliver a message of repentance. Instead of obeying, Jonah resisted. He ran, he hid, and he protested. And through that resistance, God revealed areas in Jonah. His heart that needed refinement, his pride, his prejudice, and his lack of trust in God, His mercy. Jonah resistance was uncomfortable and inconvenient, but it exposed the internal struggles that God needed to work through before Jonah could fully embrace his calling. Resistance is not punishment, it is revelation. It reveals what is inside so that God can purify it. Resistance is also an invitation to growth. Every time we resist change, we encounter an opportunity to examine ourselves, confront our fears, and surrender to God's will. It forces introspection. Why am I holding on to this? Why am I afraid to step forward? Why am I clinging to what is comfortable? Resistance compels us to confront the truth about who we are and who we are becoming. It forces us to wrestle with our insecurities, to challenge our assumptions, and to break free from limiting beliefs. And as we work through the resistance, as we choose obedience over comfort, faith over fear, and trust over control, we grow stronger, wiser, and more aligned with God's purpose. Resistance also teaches perseverance. Change is rarely easy, and transformation is never instantaneous. When God is refining us, there will always be moments of discomfort, doubt, and struggle. Resistance tests our endurance. It challenges our commitment. It forces us to lean into God even when we want to run away. Every act of choosing faith over fear, every moment of surrender over control, every step forward despite discomfort strengthens us for the journey ahead. Resistance is God's way of building stamina in our spirits so that when the breakthrough comes, we are prepared to handle it with grace and wisdom. Another key aspect of resistance is humility. When we resist, it reminds us that we are not in control. It forces us to acknowledge our limitations and dependence on God. Pride resists change because pride clings to familiarity, control, and the illusion of self-sufficiency. But God uses resistance to teach us that His ways are higher, His plans are greater, and His timing is perfect. Resistance invites humility, and humility opens the door to transformation. It softens the heart, aligns the mind, and prepares the soul for the work God is doing. Without resistance, we might never recognize the areas that require surrender, reflection, or realignment. Resistance is also a sign that we are on the right path. If nothing is challenging us, nothing is stretching us, and nothing is pushing us beyond our comfort zone, then growth is stagnant. God rarely calls us to stay where we are. He calls us to move, to stretch, to grow, and to step into greater purpose. And whenever God calls us upward, resistance will appear. It is a natural part of the process. It is the tension between what is familiar and what is promised. The struggle between the old self and the new, the friction between comfort and calling. Resistance is evidence that change is happening, even if it doesn't feel comfortable yet. We also have to recognize that resistance reveals not only personal areas of refinement, but also areas of spiritual maturity. When we resist, we become aware of the parts of ourselves that are still immature, reactive, or unprepared. It exposes where our faith is weak, where our patience is short, where our perspective is limited, and where our understanding of God's goodness is incomplete. Resistance is a mirror that shows us who we really are beneath the surface. And once we see it, we can bring it before God, surrender it, and allow His Spirit to reshape it. This is why resistance is not something to fear. It is something to embrace. It is a guidepost pointing us toward growth, healing, and refinement. Consider the refining process of gold. Raw gold is impure and full of flaws. The fire exposes the dross, the impurities, and the weaknesses. Without the fire, the gold cannot be purified. Resistance in our lives works the same way. It exposes what is hidden, what is weak, and what is still unrefined. The discomfort is temporary, but the refinement is permanent. The fire of resistance strengthens our faith, hones our character, and prepares us to carry God's purpose with clarity, courage, and integrity. Finally, resistance teaches gratitude and humility in the moment of blessing. When we overcome resistance, when we allow God to refine us, when we choose obedience over comfort, we emerge stronger and more grateful. We appreciate the breakthrough more deeply because we have wrestled with the process. We celebrate the blessing more fully because we understand the struggle that produced it. We walk in victory with humility because we recognize that God's refining work, not our own effort, made it possible. Resistance, therefore, is both a challenge and a gift. It is God's way of shaping us for greater impact, deeper faith, and stronger character. So, when you encounter resistance in your life, do not fight it in fear. Do not resent it in frustration. Do not resist it with anger. Instead, recognize it as a divine signal. It is revealing areas in your heart that need refining. It is exposing parts of your life that require surrender. It is testing your endurance, shaping your character, and stretching your faith. It is an invitation to grow, to trust, and to align more fully with God's will. Resistance is not a sign that God has abandoned you. It is a sign that He is working in you. It is a call to look inward, to examine your heart, and to embrace the refining process with courage and faith. When you understand this, resistance no longer becomes a source of fear or frustration. It becomes a tool for transformation. It becomes evidence that God is at work, even when you cannot see it. It becomes an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the destiny God has designed for you. Every challenge, every obstacle, every moment of discomfort is part of the divine process of refinement. Resistance is not the enemy of progress, it is the crucible of growth. It reveals what is weak, strengthens what is strong, and prepares you for the assignment God has called you to fulfill. So embrace the resistance, step into it with faith, surrender to it with trust, walk through it with perseverance. Let it expose, refine, and strengthen you. The areas where you feel the greatest resistance are the very areas God is refining. And when the work is complete, when the resistance has done its work, you will emerge not only transformed, but also fully equipped to walk in the fullness of the calling God has placed on your life. Resistance is not rejection. Resistance is revelation. Resistance is refinement. And it is a sign that God is at work, shaping you into the person He created you to be. Too many people are focused on what they can see, what they can touch, and what they can control, and they miss the most critical principle of spiritual life. God is building something on the inside of you that will determine everything He releases through you. The blessings, the opportunities, the influence, the breakthroughs, the miracles, none of it can be fully effective if the vessel, the container, the person receiving them has not been prepared. God is not just interested in giving you gifts. He is interested in forming a person who can use the gifts wisely, responsibly, and in alignment with His purpose. What God builds in you matters far more than what He releases to you. If He releases something to a vessel that is not ready, it can be wasted, it can be misused, or it can even destroy you. God's work in your heart, mind, and spirit is the foundation for everything that flows through you. Many people do not understand this, which is why they chase after success without preparation, seek influence without integrity, and pursue blessings without character. They want the promotion, the recognition, the wealth, the doors. And they are willing to overlook the internal work required to steward them. But God's economy works differently. He does not pour into a container that is not yet able to hold the overflow. He does not place authority in hands that are untested. He does not entrust responsibility to hearts that are unrefined. God builds first, and only then does He release. The preparation comes before the provision. The internal work comes before the external assignment. What He forms inside of you will dictate what He can safely and effectively release through you. Consider the story of Joseph. Joseph received dreams and visions of his future. He saw himself in a position of authority, ruling over nations and blessing the people around him. But God did not release him into that position immediately. First, he had to build Joseph. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused and imprisoned. Each of these trials was a part of God's building process. He was shaping his faith, his character, his integrity, his wisdom, and his leadership skills. God was preparing Joseph to handle power and influence without corruption, pride, or compromise. When God finally released Joseph from prison and placed him in authority over Egypt, Joseph was able to steward his position to save nations from famine. The release matched the preparation because God had built Joseph to carry it. If Joseph had received the blessing without the building, the same gift could have overwhelmed him, misled him, or even ruined him. What God builds in you determines what he can release through you. Moses is another example. God called Moses to deliver the Israelites out of Egypt, to confront Pharaoh and to lead a nation. But Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before stepping into his calling. During that time, God was building him, developing patience, humility, reliance on God, and leadership skills. When the moment of release came, Moses was able to lead with wisdom, courage, and faith. The people and the purpose required a man who was prepared internally, and God, as building process, made him ready. The release was not random, and it was not premature. It was matched perfectly to the internal work God had done. This principle applies to all of us. Every opportunity, every breakthrough, every blessing, every influence we receive is directly proportional to the internal preparation God has done in our lives. If He is developing patience in you, you will be able to handle the blessing without frustration. If He is cultivating humility in you, you will be able to handle success without pride. If He is strengthening your faith, you will be able to operate under pressure without fear. God's building process is deliberate, precise, and intentional. The work He does inside your heart, your mind, your character, and your spirit determines what He can release through you in a way that will honor Him and fulfill His purpose. Too many people want God to release the breakthrough without being willing to be built. They cry out for miracles while ignoring the process of refinement. They pray for doors to open while resisting the work God is doing inside. They want influence without integrity, promotion without preparation, and provision without perseverance. But God's way is different. He builds first. The release is only as great as the vessel. He forms the heart, the mind, and the spirit so that the release will have eternal value, lasting impact, and transformative power. What He builds in you is the determining factor for what He can release through you. Resistance to this process is natural, but it is also dangerous if it is ignored. Many people grow impatient, and in their impatience, they attempt to shortcut God's work. They take actions, make decisions, or pursue opportunities before they are ready. And because the vessel is not yet built, the release can lead to disaster. Opportunities can be squandered, influence can be abused, and blessings can be wasted. God's building process is not arbitrary. It is protective. It is designed to ensure that when He releases, the release flows through someone capable, stable, and aligned with His purpose. The stronger the foundation, the greater the impact of the release. Character, integrity, faith, humility, patience, wisdom, and endurance are the building blocks God places inside before He releases anything externally. Without these internal structures, the external gifts can collapse. Imagine trying to pour water into a cracked container. The blessing spills and is lost. God builds the container first so that the overflow will remain, multiply, and serve others. He works in the unseen places of our hearts to establish resilience, perspective, and strength. The spiritual, emotional, and mental preparation he orchestrates is critical to handling the assignments, responsibilities, and opportunities that lie ahead. What he builds in you will dictate what flows through you to others. This principle also teaches us to value the process, not just the outcome. It is easy to fixate on the release, the promotion, the miracle, the breakthrough, but if we ignore the building, we miss the deeper purpose. God's building process is where transformation occurs. It is where faith grows stronger, patience deepens, wisdom increases, and character matures. The process prepares us for the responsibility, the influence, and the impact of what is to come. Every delay, every trial, every challenge, every season of refinement is a critical part of building the vessel that will carry God's release. We cannot afford to rush it, bypass it, or resist it. Another key aspect is understanding that God's building is tailored to the release. Not everyone receives the same measure, not everyone walks the same path, and not everyone faces the same challenges. God customizes the building process to match the unique purpose, calling, and assignment he has for each individual. The trials, teachings, and refinements are perfectly calibrated so that the person is ready to handle the specific release that is intended for them. Comparing yourself to others or becoming frustrated with timing is missing the point. God is building you uniquely for what he intends to release through you, and no one else's preparation or timing can substitute for yours. Finally, this principle reminds us that our responsibility is to cooperate with God's building process. We must be patient, obedient, and teachable. We must embrace the refining work he is doing in our hearts, minds, and spirits. We must surrender pride, impatience, fear, and control. We must cultivate the qualities, habits, and disciplines that align with God's purpose. The release will come, but only when the building is complete. And when it comes, it will flow through a vessel prepared, equipped, and ready to handle it with grace, wisdom, and impact. So, understand this truth: God's work inside you is greater than anything you can see outside. He is building strength, character, faith, humility, patience, wisdom, and resilience in you so that the release, whatever form it may take, will be effective, lasting, and transformative. What he builds in you determines what he can release through you. Embrace the process. Trust the preparation. Surrender to the refinement. Cooperate with God's work inside, and you will find that when the time comes, the blessings, the opportunities, and the impact will flow through you with power, purpose, and permanence. The vessel matters as much as the gift, the heart matters as much as the harvest, and what God is building in you will determine what he can release through you for generations to come. Now, as we come to the end of this message, I want you to hear this with your heart tonight. The change God is making in you matters more than the change you want around you. I know how tempting it is to look at your circumstances, your finances, your relationships, your job, your opportunities, and say, God, why hasn't this changed yet? Why haven't you moved? I know the longing in your spirit to see doors swing open, to experience breakthroughs, to have situations turn in your favor. I know that cry that comes out of your soul when you feel like you've waited too long, but I came to tell you tonight that God's timeline is perfect and his focus is on you. He is not ignoring your prayers. He is not silent. He is not unaware. He is at work in you, and what he is doing inside is far more important than what you can see outside. He is changing your heart, your mind, your character, your faith, your endurance, your perspective, and your spirit, so that when the change comes in your circumstances, you will be ready to handle it with grace, wisdom, and integrity. Everything we talked about tonight, the inner transformation, the waiting, the character growth, the resistance, the building, these are all part of the same divine principle. God's work inside you is the foundation for everything he wants to release through you. Delay is not denial, delay is development. The trials, the hardships, the frustrations, the moments of waiting are not punishment, they are preparation. They are refining tools, chisels, fires, and hammers God uses to shape you into the person capable of carrying your calling. If God gave you everything you were asking for today, without the internal growth, without the preparation, without the refinement, you could be overwhelmed, broken, or misaligned with His purpose. But because He is working in you, the change in your character, your heart, and your faith ensures that the external change will be sustainable, impactful, and enduring. Think about your own life for a moment. Reflect on the moments when God delayed His answer, when doors stayed closed, when situations didn't move the way you expected. Look back and see how those delays, those trials, and those challenges shaped you. How they forced you to pray longer, trust harder, and persevere. How they revealed areas in your heart that needed refining. How they built endurance, strengthened your character, and developed your faith. That is the point I want you to hear tonight. God is working in you while you wait, and that work matters more than the blessing you are asking for. Your character must grow to carry your calling. God cannot place responsibility in a heart that is not ready. He cannot release influence through someone who is unprepared. He cannot entrust a breakthrough to someone whose faith is fragile, whose patience is thin, or whose integrity is compromised. That is why trials exist. That is why resistance comes. That is why delays persist. Because God is not just interested in giving you the blessing. He is interested in giving you a person capable of stewarding that blessing for His glory. What He builds in you determines what He can release through you. Every difficulty, every disappointment, every moment of resistance is a building block, a training ground, and a divine workshop where God is shaping your spirit, your heart, and your mind. Resistance is not a curse. Resistance is a revelation. When you resist change, when you feel uncomfortable, when you struggle with letting go of the old and stepping into the new, God is revealing areas of your life that need refinement. Resistance exposes what is not yet aligned with His purpose. It shows you where faith needs to grow, where patience must be exercised, where humility must be cultivated, and where trust must deepen. It is in the tension of resistance that God's refining work happens. It is in the struggle that your character is formed. It is in the friction that your faith becomes stronger. Embrace resistance, my friend, because it is the tool God uses to prepare you for the release, the blessing, the breakthrough, and the destiny He has for you. Do not despise the process. Do not grow weary in the waiting. Do not resent the refining. Do not fight the transformation. God's work in you is intentional. It is deliberate. It is precise. He is forming you, molding you, and preparing you for something greater than you can imagine. Every moment of discomfort is an opportunity. Every challenge is a lesson. Every delay is a divine appointment for growth. And when you finally see the external change, the breakthrough, the promotion, the relationship, the opportunity, the healing, it will be so much sweeter because of the person you have become in the process. You will carry it with wisdom, with integrity, with faith, and with purpose. Look at Joseph, look at Moses, look at Esther, look at David. Every one of them had to go through a building process before the release. Every one of them had to endure delay, face resistance, develop character, and grow spiritually before the destiny they were called to fulfill could manifest. The difference between those who fail when blessings come and those who succeed is not the size of the blessing, it is the preparation of the person receiving it. God is doing the same work in you today. He is not moving too slowly. He is moving wisely. He is not ignoring you. He is equipping you. What He is building in you now will determine the magnitude, the effectiveness, and the permanence of what He releases through you later. So I want you to take this truth with you tonight. The change God is making in you matters more than the change you want around you. Don't get caught up in the visible circumstances. Don't measure God's activity by what you can see. Look at your heart. Look at your character. Look at your faith. Look at your endurance. Look at your humility. Look at your patience. God is working all of these things together in you to prepare you for the breakthrough, the opportunity, the blessing, the destiny that is coming. He is building you from the inside out so that when the time comes, the release will flow through you with power, purpose, and permanence. Tonight, I want you to leave with a new perspective. I want you to understand that delays are not denials, resistance is not rejection, and trials are not punishment. They are opportunities for God to build you into the person you need to become so that you can carry the calling, steward the blessing, and impact the world for His glory. Every moment you feel like nothing is happening is actually a moment when God is doing the most important work, the work inside of you. Trust Him. Wait on Him. Embrace the process. Allow Him to refine you. Allow Him to strengthen you. Allow Him to grow your faith, deepen your character, and equip your spirit. And when the moment finally comes, when the breakthrough arrives, when the blessing is released, when the door opens, when the opportunity presents itself, you will step into it not as the person you were before, but as the person God has built you to be. You will handle it with wisdom. You will steward it with integrity. You will carry it with humility. You will multiply it for His glory. That is the principle of divine transformation. What God builds in you determines what He can release through you. You are not just waiting for a change in circumstances, you are being prepared to become a change in the world. So tonight, I want you to commit to the process. I want you to say in your heart, God, I will let you work in me. I will embrace the delay. I will surrender to the refining. I will grow in character. I will persevere through resistance. I will trust your building process because I know that what you are building in me will determine what you can release through me. When you say that, you are aligning with the greatest principle of spiritual success. You are choosing faith over fear, trust over doubt, obedience over impatience. And that is when the supernatural power of God can manifest in and through you. Never forget this. The change God is making in you matters more than the change you want around you. Your heart, your character, your faith, your patience, your humility, your endurance, all of these are the foundation for the external manifestations you are praying for. God is building something in you that cannot be rushed, cannot be ignored, and cannot be bypassed. And when He is finished, you will be ready to walk into the fullness of your destiny, fully equipped, fully empowered, and fully aligned with His purpose. So, as you leave this place tonight, carry this truth in your heart. The process is not wasted, the work is not silent, the refining is not random, and the preparation is not pointless. God is at work. He is building in you what will one day flow through you. He is shaping you, strengthening you, and equipping you. The change He is making in you matters more than the change you want around you. And when you finally step into the blessing, the release, and the destiny He has promised, you will do so as a vessel fully prepared, fully empowered, and fully victorious. Your breakthrough will not only change your life, it will impact generations. Because God has built in you what He wants to release through you. So receive it tonight. Embrace it tonight. Trust it tonight. Know that God is at work in you, and your time to shine, to serve, and to step into your calling is coming. Let Him finish the work. Let Him perfect the vessel. Let Him complete the building. And when He does, what flows through you will be unstoppable, undeniable, and unforgettable. The change God is making in you matters more than the change you want around you. Amen.